Good morning and welcome Charlotte and Raleigh to our unemployment insurance virtual town hall. Before we get started today, we're going to go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves and let you know what they do here at APFA. I'm Julie Hedrick. I'm the APFA National President. David?
Hi, I'm David Arnett. I'm a current contract and scheduling representative and also an unemployment specialist at APFA.
Good morning, my name is Brian Walsh. I'm the APFA National Contract Chair.
I'm Marty McMillan. I am the National Scheduling Chair.
Hi guys, I'm Kelly Hagan. I'm an elected negotiator as well as an unemployment specialist based in Chicago.
Good morning, Charlotte and Raleigh. I'm Eric Harris, APFA National Treasurer based in Philadelphia. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, I'm Josh Black, APFA National Secretary. I'm glad to have you today.
We're very happy you joined us today. The purpose of this town hall is to try and answer as many state-specific questions as we possibly can for you. We have on the APFA website a really good resource for if you haven't put your claim in yet or if you're having any issues with your claims. We have a video that was put out last week that kind of walks you through the basics of unemployment insurance also. Today, we have two experts with us that have been working on unemployment insurance for the past 6 months and have been helping our flight attendants not only just filling out their claim, but also with the appeal process. Through their help, they've been able to help flight attendants recover $1.8 million. I can't thank Kelly and David enough for all the work they've done to help our flight attendants recover that money and also to help our flight attendants make sure that their forms are filled out correctly so there's no delay in the flight attendants get those much needed benefits. So first today, before we get started with the questions, we're going to walk through a couple of things. The first important topic we have is, especially if you are a furloughed flight attendant, it's really important to make sure that APFA and the company have your personal email address as well as your physical current address where you live. So first we're going to walk you through where on JetNet you can find that location to update that information. One of the reasons it's so important today for the furloughed flight attendants to do this is on October 19th, this next Monday, the company will be sending an email to you that will tell you how much you will be receiving during your furlough pay period, the amount of hours you'll receive. So let's make sure you have that personal email updated so you can receive that information. Okay, Brian, I think you're going to walk us through once Josh gets to that on to the JetNet website, where to find that.
Sure, so you're just going to log in to JetNet like you would normally do. And once you get to the JetNet home screen, you'll be looking on the right-hand side for the tab that says Resources for Furloughed Team Members. And once you're there, you'll click on the link where it says View More. And then once you get to that new page, you'll see on the left-hand side where it says APFA Represented Flight Service Team Members. Once you click on that, it will expand and you'll see a couple of links listed below. What you'll be looking for is the very last one where it says provide your personal email address. Once you click on that link, you'll be able to update your email address and physical address so you can receive periodic updates from the company as they go through the recall process or any other updates while you're out on your leave or furlough.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Next, we're going to go over to the APFA website and walk you through all of the resources we have on the website for those of you who are putting in for unemployment insurance. Also, we'll show you exactly where you need to update your information on the website. Kelly, do you want to walk us through that?
Yes, ma'am. So once you type in apfa.org, it will take you to the APFA home screen. When you get to the home screen, you're going to see an assortment of tabs. The very last one that you will see will be Member Resources. Once you click that, that's going to take you to the Member Resource page. Under membership forms, the very first hyperlink is update your info. As Julie had mentioned, it's very crucial for you to keep your most current information with APFA, and this is the place in which you can do that. If you scroll on down that page, under helpful links, you're going to see the unemployment resource hyperlink. Once you click that, that's going to take you to the web page that David and I keep updated. The first two hyperlinks that you'll see, they're in blue. It'll have the unemployment contact form as well as our email address, which is unemployment@apfa.org. That is how you can reach out to David and I should you have any questions, concerns, or need to discuss unemployment in any way. The first section of tabs that you will see will be the general unemployment information. If you did not have the opportunity to look at the PowerPoint that David and I walked through, these tabs have all that information. They have a little bit more information than that PowerPoint. So if you did have the opportunity to watch it and you like some additional information, this is a little bit of a deeper dive. We do update this web page with some frequency, and we color code the changes and the dates in which it was changed. So that way it's a lot easier for you to see if you've not been on the web page in quite some time to see what has changed since last you were there. If you don't mind, let's go to the very last tab, which is resources. Again, we have our contact information on this page at the very top. We also have the video that I had just mentioned. For filing resources, this is very important. For the initial claim filing process, there are going to be some information that you need to have in front of you and readily accessible when filing your initial claim. You're going to need to have AA's address, their contact number, as well as their federal ID number. So we put that at the very top so it would be easy for you. We do suggest initial claimants to please file online and use this address. American Airlines does use a third-party provider to administrate the unemployment. And if we can get all the initial claimants to channel it through this contact information, we find that the claims run a little bit smoother. If you use Google and a different address comes up and you use that, sometimes your claim is not tied to American Airlines account, which can cause a stalled claim. And we're trying to give you the best tools so as not to experience that. If we scroll on down, we're going to see documents and forms. And in this section, we have included a lot of the packets that have come out for the various leaves, the VOPs, the furlough packet. We also have some additional documents that you may find useful throughout this process. We've got the vacation buyback letter, and we've got the good cause unemployment letter. A lot of times if you go ahead and are proactive and upload these into your portal, it can stave off a stalled claim process. We also have just some additional documents that we've either created or we've pulled from different websites that can help assist you in understanding this process, because it's a very foreign process if you've never done it before or it's been some time since you've done it. If we scroll on down, we're going to go to our state unemployment resources. Every state is very different in how they administrate an unemployment program. So when speaking to flight attendants, be very clear that what state are they claiming in, because the rules for them may be vastly different than the rules for the state in which you're claiming in, which would be North Carolina for today's town hall. So we're going to go to the Charlotte and Raleigh tab, and then that's going to bring up North Carolina. So this is kind of a broad overview of how North Carolina works. The very first hyperlink that we have is going to be to the portal, which you would set up an account there and a PIN or password, and that is where you're going to file your initial claim as well as your certification. And the difference between those two items is a claim is you initially telling the state, hey, my employment status has changed in some way, whether I no longer have employment or I have reduced employment, and I'm going to need to sign up for an unemployment program. You would also come back and visit this web page for you to certify. Certification is very, very important. That is you telling the state, hey, I've signed up for this program, now I'm gonna need the money from this program. You're gonna tell them, I met the eligibility requirement, so I'm gonna need money for these 2 weeks. If you do not do that, they're not gonna give you any money. When you file an initial claim, it can take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks for that to process. During that processing time, you will not receive a benefit, but you still need to raise your hand and certify and let them know that you need that benefit. So that way, once they get your claim processed, it will go back and capture all of that back pay, that retro pay. So moving on, under the unemployment benefits at a glance, this is just a very broad brushstroke of what the state provides. If you are in a situation, let's say you hop from base to base and you have eligible earnings in those bases and you have the opportunity to select which base state you're going to file in, you can go through our various tabs and look and see which bases have the best benefits that you can draw from. We have had a lot of updates in North Carolina. David and I do a lot of work with North Carolina. It has thrown us some curveballs that we've been working through. One of the items that you may not be familiar with, or you may be familiar with, is that the governor in North Carolina has come out with an executive order that speaks to furloughed flight attendants and support payments. So we have been working with American to see if they will participate in that program. It is an employer voluntary program. We will have an update with that hopefully within the coming weeks, and we will let you guys know through a hotline as well as the webpage what the status of that is. The reason why we are pushing for that, for American to volunteer into that program, it is very beneficial for our members. It allows additional money through the way of not having furlough pay and vacation pay measure against your benefits. So at a pandemic time, we really want to advocate to get as much for our members that we can. Under the Charlotte Raleigh resource subsection, we have a lot of just documents that you can download. These are available on the state website. It is kind of difficult to find some of these little Easter eggs, so we've kind of put them in here for you so that way you could find them in one place. We've also included a lot of the governor executive orders because it is relevant to the situation, whether it be a work search requirement, the support payment, somehow it has a tentacle that touches into unemployment. So that is why we included it in there for you. We've also included all of your government advocates. Those are your elected representatives, whether it be on a state or a federal level. And the reason that we did that is we have found in some other states where we've had some claims that have been stalled much longer than our liking. We found some success in reaching out to those elected representatives. That is their job. Their job is to best represent their electorate. So let's put them to work. Hopefully we won't need that, but if we do, we have all of their contact information there for you. And that wraps up the webpage.
Very good. A lot of information, especially for North Carolina flight attendants, to say the least. That's an excellent resource for them. Okay, I know you touched upon a few things in that explanation. Before we get started, we only have a couple of questions for North Carolina. I know that part of it is they've had their own unemployment town hall also, so I'm sure a lot of questions got answered there. But if you are listening and you have state-specific questions or any other questions, please make sure to send those in to us and we'll make sure those are answered today. So before we get started, do we want to talk about state-specific North Carolina issues that we've had that you two have been able to help resolve or things to look out for?
I think that would be a great topic for discussion. What about you, Kelly?
Yes, we may have one or two things in North Carolina to discuss.
And we'll kind of tag team through this one because we have been working very, very hard on this one issue in North Carolina. If any of you are watching, there are claimants that are currently out there that are stalled due to the PBGC payments. What is very important to remember is that the pension payments from either legacy carrier, let's say that you transferred to Charlotte and you're an LAA flight attendant, or you transferred to RDU and you're an LAA flight attendant, and now you are, you took a VOP and you're receiving a pension, or you're a LUS flight attendant and you're getting payment from the PBGC, and you disclose that to the state. The state of North Carolina is having a tremendous problem.
Tremendous.
Very tremendous. Deciphering that those pension payments are not from the base period employer. And let's just give you a little explanation of what the two pension payments are from. So if you are a Legacy US Airways flight attendant, your pension payments were taken over through bankruptcy by the PBGC. So that was in 2012, correct? That was in 2012. And if you are a Legacy AA flight attendant, your pensions were frozen in 2012, and that was after bankruptcy. So those pensions were contributed to by a previous employer. That was AMR. The merged carrier of AAL did not contribute to either of those pension payments. So that's why it's very important for the state to realize either pension is not from the base period employer. So we have gone through a period of what, 8, almost 7 months?
Yes.
With round and round with the state. The company has been has been a huge advocate for getting these claims overturned. I can't say enough how strongly they have, they've written a PBGC letter for our North Carolina flight attendants, or any LUS flight attendant. We are going to add that to our website. That is, if you are experiencing any issues with the PBGC, you have a stalled claim, we do ask you to please email us your information.
I'm so sorry.
That was somebody right there that's having an issue with the PBGC. Sorry that you didn't get the hotline.
So sorry.
But that's just how it goes. So if you are experiencing an issue with the PBGC, please send us your information, and please just don't send an email saying PBGC or call me. We need details, documentation. If you send us something, please do not send. We have 60 emails and calls coming in. So please be very specific in what your issues are with your supporting documentation. It's virtually impossible to call everybody that just sends an email and says call me. So the pension, we are aware of it. We have a letter that we provided to the state, and we do ask Kelly the best case scenario that we've seen with our claimants is when they do what with that letter?
Upload it to their portal.
And that's directly into the North Carolina DES portal.
Yes. Definitely upload it to the portal. When you get your documentation, David touched on this, we cannot stress enough how important it is when you reach out to us to provide copies of every single piece of communication you have received from the state, as well as any communication you have sent to the state. Now, a lot of that communication, that conversation, if you will, takes place within that portal. There is the ability for you to view that. When you view it, take a screenshot and send it to us. Because we also see on the PBGC specifically, not only could it be stalled, but it could be you're receiving no benefit because they have reduced you into zero, which in accordance with their own state laws, they cannot do. Very rarely, it appears, do you see folks drawing a pension that is not from their base period employer, which I believe is why it defaults to that. So what we have to do is get past the program and default. As David had mentioned, American has just been such a good advocate for our members on that. It is a very slow process just to the sheer volume of the claimants outside of American, mind you, within the state. We have approached American for them to use their governmental affairs to step in, which they have. We've gotten direct contacts in North Carolina unemployment, as well as even the Secretary of Commerce, for them to advocate for our members. It is a slow process, and I wish there was anything that we could do to speed it up, but not a day goes by, the conversation is not reinforced with American, with the state, to get our members their money, because we do. Unfortunately, we have a handful of folks that have not received any benefit because they have reduced them to zero due to their pension since May. So it will be a success story, mind you. It just, it's a long marathon right now, but we're in it to win it.
And I want to tag on something to that too, Julie, that we haven't even shared with, I don't even think with the leadership here, but as you said, we did get the government affairs. American was successful in that, but also it said the DES, they provided a consultant to the company that will be addressing the claims for the PBGC. So,
Good. Oh,
I think tapping into that government affairs piece is exactly what was
we needed.
Yeah, to kind of push them forward. And we're also seeing a stall with PBGC if you are exhausting the state benefit and you're going into the PEUC. In North Carolina, it's called the EUC. When you have to go in and apply for that second round of benefits for the additional 13 weeks.
And that's if you've exhausted your first one, right?
Correct.
Your first 26, okay. 12, sorry.
If you've exhausted your 12 weeks of state benefit and you're going into the EUC, it is basically, and Kelly and I have seen a few of the questions, but it's asking you virtually the same questions as the original application.
And it's my understanding in talking to a lot of our claimants, and by the way, thank you claimants for always reaching out to us and keeping us abreast of a state that we don't file in. It seems when you are coming into that extended benefit, it is auto-populating your initial answers from your initial claim filing, and you cannot go in and change them. So if something was answered in error, it will not be backed out in this process.
And a question that we're getting is, do I disclose my pension on the EUC application in fear of a stall? We are just now getting to this point with our claimants in North Carolina, so we haven't had one, Julie, that has gone through that process that has made us aware if they have stalled. So we're assuming that it's been a success.
Going okay.
Yeah, it's going okay. But if you do experience that, I know that some people have reached out how to apply to disclose. I mean, if the two are tied, I would say to keep going with how you filled out, because most of it's pre-populated, right? So if it asks you for that pension and on your initial filing you disclose that pension, please continue doing that. Don't change course because we don't want to trigger any type of recoupment or fact finding from the state.
Okay, sounds like there's been a lot of work done in North Carolina.
Do we want to talk about the good cause?
Absolutely.
Because that would be our other furry beast in North Carolina. We have had a percentage of claimants that have filed and have been denied due to they have left their employer not attributable to good cause. And what that means is that you left your job and you didn't have a good reason, so your good reason precludes you from claiming unemployment. So what we do with those is we work with the company who has been who's been working very well with us and with the state to get those staved off. However, once you have received a denial of benefit, if you have received no benefit to that point, you will just receive the reason for the denial of benefit. If you have been receiving benefit and now it's been suspended, and they've sent you a denial of benefit, you will also get an additional lovely letter that says notice of recoupment, which means, yeah, we gave you some benefit, we thought about it, we don't want to do that anymore, and we're going to want our money back. Not letters that anyone wants to see in their portal or in their mailbox. In those letters, there are very strict appeal rights, and with those appeal rights come very strict timelines. So we do advise, if you receive something such as that, you need to reach out to us as quickly as possible. Provide us all the copies of that documentation and appeal. You can appeal that within the portal. It's a click of a button. It's not that hard, but we don't want anyone to miss their appeal rights. If you miss your appeal rights, you have pretty much consented to agreeing with the state's interpretation of your situation. We have not lost a case yet in Charlotte. I hope I did not jinx us. And what David and I do to help members through that appeals process is we will, once we get your documentation, we can come up with a case presentation. We come up with an appeal packet for you to upload. We do appeal prep on that, which is, I think, a little hardcore because we kind of go good cop, bad cop on it, because we want to ensure that you are best positioned to prevail. And so far we've been doing, I think, a pretty good job on it.
So I really want to piggyback off that, not to take away from our lovely moderator, but North Carolina takes a while to flip the claims. Kelly is spot on. We have not lost a case in North Carolina. It's taking 5-6 months to get it overturned, but we will prevail. I mean, we have done well so far. What we've seen issues with is another thing. Claimants are processed as a PUA when they should be a PUA is, just to explain to you, is basically somebody who under the CARES Act somebody who normally would not qualify for unemployment. For example, a gig worker or a guitar player that travels from wedding to wedding, or somebody who is an independent contractor whose wages are not reported to the state. Guess what? That is not flight attendants. Your wages are reported to the state by American Airlines. So you are a regular UI filer, which is regular unemployment insurance. Well, North Carolina, the great state, came up with this solution of we're gonna run these concurrent. So what they'll do is they'll try and process your claim as a regular unemployment claim, and if that gets denied, then they process you through as a PUA. And PUAs, Kelly, tell us, they have much.
It's a much shorter timeline for the claim, as well as it has a different ceiling. It has a different weekly max. It's not as good as what you would get on UI. Also, when you're filing your initial claim, it actually prompts you to pick that box. Avoid that box as if it had mean cats in it or something. Stay away from it. But let's say it is what it is and it happens, and you are processed as a PUA. Reach out to David and I at unemployment@apfa.org. We are working to get those flipped on the back end of the process and to get you any additional benefits that you are entitled to. And how do we know that you're entitled to additional benefits? Because you've been certifying that whole time. So that's what is going to give you that back pay. But we do ask that you reach out to us on that. We have had a couple of instances where flight attendants tried to fix that with the state themselves, and that has turned into a tar pit, because what the state has done at the customer service level, which is your basic entry level into the system, is they're canceling out your PUA, which means all that money we've been paying you, albeit short what you should have had, you need to pay us that back. And now we're going to rerun a whole new claim on you. So it's a lot easier to just get the coding flipped on the back end.
I don't want our claimants to be caught in all the acronyms, Kelly.
Oh, thank you.
Because there is a difference between PUA, which stands for Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which is people that don't normally qualify for unemployment, but because of the CARES Act, they can get it, and the PEUC. The PEUC is Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation. So the two acronyms that you need to be familiar with are those two, and make sure that you're not a PUA and that PEUC is what happens when you actually exhaust your 12 weeks of state unemployment benefit. And please don't take matters into your own hands.
Very good. And tell me, are there other states that is happening also with the PUA or the flight attendants are, if it doesn't work, if it doesn't go through the right process and to begin with, they end up being in PUA? Or is this only North Carolina where this is happening?
We have seen it in other states. We've seen it in New York, and we have seen it, but the way that North Carolina has elected to populate their form for you to complete for unemployment, it's really easy to make that mistake. You know, you're just going through and checking the boxes and it makes sense. And it's creating a lot more work for them.
And one more thing with North Carolina, I think, Kelly, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to actually enter the employer ID number.
Mm-hmm.
And please make sure that you enter that number correctly. And I'll let you speak to why.
If you do not enter that number correctly, you may be attached to a different account.
Yeah.
And that new employer that is not yours will say, we don't even know who this person is, and it will deny the claim, or you will go into a deep, dark hole, never to be seen from again. So definitely, please, please, please ensure that that employer ID number is correct. And also, David, I'm totally going to steal this from you. Make sure your name is correct. If you have been divorced, if you have been married, if you have just changed your name, please ensure that the name that you are filing under matches the name that American has for you. If those names do not match up, even though same social seems like it would work, that can put you into a deep, dark place as well. It is repairable, so if it's already done, it is repairable, but it is a bit of a lengthier process because that goes into identity verification.
Okay, lots of really good information. Thank you. Okay, I'm sure we'll come up with a few more issues that we've had in North Carolina along the way here, but we've got a few questions, so let's dive into those and get those answered, and then we'll see what else, what time we have left to answer anything else that might have come up from the questions. So the first question we have is from a furloughed flight attendant, and the question is, if I am anticipating receiving furlough pay, am I eligible for unemployment benefits? How do I report my earnings for benefit purposes? And do I include per diem, leave pay, crew cash? How do I treat furlough pay? Is it considered severance pay? And if I live in Ohio, can I claim unemployment in that state instead of North Carolina? So we have quite a few questions within this one, so let's take them one at a time. Kelly, I think you're going to answer this for us.
Yes, ma'am. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to read the question again.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I am anticipating to receive furlough pay, am I ineligible for unemployment benefits? Okay, so I'm going to answer this in two different scenarios because kind of where we're going with American under the support payments, if we get them to submit that paperwork and if we do not, okay? So receiving furlough pay does not make you ineligible. Receiving furlough pay without the support payment process would be measured against your unemployment. If we are able to secure that American voluntarily participates in that program, it would not measure against your benefit. So definitely two different worlds there. One had sunshine and one not so much. So we do suggest please go ahead and put your claim in early. Due to the lengthy processing times, we do not want there to be a large gap from when I transitioned from furlough pay. Now I'm receiving no money, and then when I'm receiving my unemployment benefit. So we definitely want that gap to be as closed as it possibly can be. On to your second question, how do I report my earnings for benefits purpose? Do I include per diem, leave pay, crew cash? What you will need to do is when you're looking at your paperless pays or e-pays, if you're an LA flight attendant who has transferred in, what the state is concerned about is your gross earnings. So when you're looking at your pay stub, look at your gross earnings. Whatever's captured in that is going to be what American reports to the state. And the state is able to see those gross earnings that American reports on a quarterly basis. How do I treat furlough pay, and is it considered severance pay? It is considered severance pay. That is the contractual language that we have due to your occupational seniority, which would determine the length of your furlough pay as well as what that furlough pay, what it is, how it's calculated. That is considered severance pay. That is considered in a non-support payment volunteer program as earnings, as income, and would be reported to the state and would be measured against your unemployment. If I live in Ohio, can I claim unemployment in that state instead of North Carolina? So how unemployment works and where you can file. You have to have generated earnings in a state for you to claim in that state. It is not based upon your residency at all. Paying into the unemployment insurance fund is done by the employer. It is done through their payroll taxes. It's not something that an employee has any interaction with. It is not based on residency. So no, you do not file in Ohio. If you try that, Ohio's going to try to find earnings for you. There's not going to be any earnings for you, and you will potentially have missed potential weeks of claiming and certifying. So just go straight to the state that you want to file in, that you have generated earnings in.
Kelly, before we move on, because I realize there's a lot of flight attendants who have been furloughed who have not put a claim in yet. And I think it's really important for us to kind of go over if they've been based in different bases in the last 18 months, how that works. Because I know, you explain it very well, that you could be based in, let's say, Philadelphia, right, for 1 month, and you could claim, put in your unemployment claim in Philadelphia. So do you want to just kind of walk them through that so they're aware of that? Because we probably do have quite a few furloughed flight attendants in Charlotte that may have been based in other bases in the last 18 months.
Yeah, especially, I mean, a lot of our furloughed flight attendants were put into bases they didn't want to be in.
Right.
And then went on the transfer list and finally was able to get into their preferred base, maybe right before they got furloughed. So at a minimum, we're going to see if you have transfer bases, you would have spent at least 1 month somewhere because you would have had that transfer requirement to be in that base for at least a month before you could transfer out, just by the nature of the bidding process. So in the event that maybe you started in Charlotte and then you had since transferred to Philadelphia or Boston or LA, any of these bases, as long as you have generated any earnings within a state, that would be captured during your base period look back, which, depending on when you file your claim, if you generated earnings, you can file in that state. For example, I'll use myself as an example. I have been based in 3 places. I'm a little bit of a base hopper. In the last year and a half, I was based in Miami, New York for 1 month, and now I'm in Chicago. So when I was taking a leave and looking where I should file for unemployment, which is kind of how we built the web page, is I'm looking at those different base tabs. How many weeks is unemployment available in those 3 states for me? How much is that weekly benefit in those 3 states? Is severance pay measured against unemployment? Is vacation measured against unemployment? Look at those items and do, apples to apples comparison, because I may be able to file for let's say 13 more weeks in one state than I could the other. Pick which one best benefits you, which one works for your scenario, your life situation. You'll have a choice, so make the best choice for yourself. If you elect to file and you have been in different bases, when you do that, one of the first communications you're going to get from the state is a monetary determination. And what that says is, hey, here's how we capture your earnings. This is what we've captured for these quarters. Do you agree? They may not capture one of those bases you were in. Let's say you've been in North Carolina the whole time, and for some reason, one quarter wasn't reported. That would draw down your weekly benefit amount. So really go over that with a fine-tooth comb. And as we stated earlier, there are appeal rights to that. There is the right of a claimant review of that. If you don't say anything, you agree to it. So if you're a base hopper like me and you have decided, you know what, of all the places I've been, North Carolina's got the best benefits, that's the horse I'm going with, make sure those other wages are pushed in there. So that way you can get the full benefit that you're entitled to.
And that applies to anyone on a VIAP.
Yep.
That applies to anyone on a leave.
Yep.
Not just the furloughed flight attendants, but all flight attendants who are putting in for unemployment right now. There is one more thing as you were talking about. I know what I've learned over the last few days is it's not just about how much money you will receive for the weekly benefit. It's how long the benefit is for, but also you went over it very well. Also, if in that state, the severance pay, the vacation is weighed against it or not. So really, it's important to make sure you look at all of those issues, all of those items before you make that decision.
And that was when we were building the webpage, we wanted to put really the financial things that you should be looking at. So that way you can do that comparison.
Yeah, very good. Okay, all right. We have another question here from a flight attendant who is out on a leave of absence. I am on a STLOA. When it asks if I have looked for work, should I answer yes or no? David, do you want to take that one?
Sure. According to the North Carolina DES website, it says, do I have to search for work while filing for unemployment? And we are finding that sometimes these websites are not updated as regularly as they should be. But according to the website, it says you do not have to search for work while filing for unemployment while North Carolina is under a state of emergency for COVID-19. Now, we don't know when the state of emergency is going to be lifted. It could be extended indefinitely. Some states have, as we say, drop dead dates when the stay is going to be lifted. But right now, there is no job search requirement. I do want to say that while we were doing our presentation, we got an email from a flight attendant who was processed as a PUA. So thank you, those of you who are watching and paying attention. That is really important.
Yeah. Can I add to your STLOA?
Yeah.
Do you mind? Something to keep in mind. If you are on a leave that is generating income, that is going to be reported to the state as reduced hours. It will be reported as earnings, and it will be captured by the state on a quarterly basis. If you are on one of those leaves that has pay, because you're being processed as reduced hours, you would not have a work search requirement. If your seniority is one where on one of these leaves you are not being paid, there's not going to be any earnings captured. So you're going to look as fully unemployed, not partially, as you would be on the paid leave. So once that work search requirement comes back onto the table, you would have that requirement.
Okay, and can we make one more clarification on this? So if you were a furloughed flight attendant in North Carolina, and this is the question, do they have to do a work search in North Carolina if they are furloughed today?
Being fully unemployed, you will have a work search requirement, once the state order has been
So
lifted.
that still applies to the furloughed flight attendants also. Just wanted to make sure.
That goes with any claimant,
With all of them.
all
Okay,
claimants. Mhm.
great. Okay, on to the next question. This is from a flight attendant who is on the VOP. He took the VOP with a lump sum. My vacation and sick time will be paid out in November 2020. How is vacation and sick time reported when certifying for UI, since some was earned in 2019 and some earned in 2020? And Kelly, it looks like you're gonna take that.
Yes, ma'am. So any vacation, sick payout, or as the state website says, PTO time, paid time off, any of that is looked as earnings. So that will need to, there is a required reporting to that, and it will be measured against your unemployment. As we said earlier, all of those earnings are reported to the state, and the state looks at them quarterly. So all they're going to worry about is at the end of the day, do the quarters match up? So whatever you are claiming, when you certify, however you're telling them that you're getting these hours and these monies, as long as that adds up with what American has reported to the state, they don't care how you put that in there. So when you get that huge check, if you put it all on 1 week, which would preclude you for that 1 week, you will be fine on that, because the state doesn't have the ability to look and go, well, what did Dottie get on this week? Or what did she get on this week? Or they don't have that. It's just a quarterly basis. So as long as you're reporting everything as you should, how you move those pieces around on the board throughout that quarter, they don't care about. Did I miss anything on that, David?
Oh, that's great. I think we do have some claimants that go from, one leave to the next, and they want to know, how do I go from a PVLOA hours to an EVLOA hours into
Or a VOP hour?
or VOP hours.
Yeah.
So Julie, that's very important. What Kelly just said is that, it really doesn't matter how to claim it. And we get a lot of emails. How do I claim this? How do I claim this? How do I claim this? Just what Kelly said, as long as at the end of the day, what you report when you certify matches up with what the company reports to the state, then you should be in good graces.
Can you go over your, don't price yourself out of the market?
Well, and the reason why that's also important is because North Carolina has $350 a week. And so if you're at 38 hours on the VOP and you are claiming those hours, breaking them down into, I don't know, how it's 6-7 hours a week.
Yeah.
You could be pricing yourself out of the unemployment market because you're getting more than the maximum weekly benefit in North Carolina. And then we also want to make sure that, again, I can't stress this enough, if you're getting a pension payment, that those payments are not reducing your weekly benefit amount, because they should not be. And if they are, please call us, please send us documentation, or email us, unemployment@apfa.org. Use the contact us form, let us know.
And something else to consider when you're trying not to price yourself out of the market, as David said, we're most likely going to see a PSP extension at some point. And we're most likely going to see a legislative stimulus program. There may be some extensions to the CARES Act. There may be something similar to the Lost Wage Assistance Program. Those programs had minimums that you had to meet weekly to be eligible for them. The CARES Act, you had to get $1 of unemployment to generate the $600 supplement. Lost wage assistance, you had to generate $100 a week to get the additional $300 supplement. So when considering pricing yourself out of the market, you need to look at your pay scale. You need to look and see how you're dividing these hours up, how you're moving those pieces around on the table for your reporting. Because when we get those pieces legislated, there may be some retroactiveness to it. So you need to be very aware of how you're reporting this out yourself. So you're not pricing yourself out of the market and leaving that supplement money behind.
Excellent information. Thank you. Okay, we have one last question here today. This is from a flight attendant who is on the 12-month re-up based in North Carolina. Hang on a second, is that a second one? I guess, nope. Could you clarify if I disclose pension from a different employer?
I'll take that one, Julie. First of all, thanks for reaching out to us. If you're on a 12-month VOP, and can you kind of let us know, are you currently receiving benefits, or are you filing an initial claim? Because on initial claim filing is where you would definitely need to disclose to the state that you are receiving a pension, but it is not from the base period employer. And I know that North Carolina has a lot of sections where you can write notes, you can type in notes on the initial filing, but we don't want you to withhold any information from the state as far as receiving a pension. But where we're seeing the stalls are two places, right? We're seeing it sometimes on initial filing, but also on the weekly certification, because they'll say, have you or will you apply for a pension? Everybody's answering yes, and then you're stalling out your claim because the state doesn't ask you where that pension's coming from. Contact us. I want to make sure we're going to add that pension letter to the website, hopefully sometime today or next week. We want to provide you a copy of the pension letter that American Airlines Human Resources drafted for us in conjunction with legal, so that you can get that uploaded to your portal.
And do you mind if I
No.
build? So anybody who needs that letter, which means I am getting a pension, please email us at unemployment@apfa.org so we can get that letter to you. We can get it uploaded to your portal. We can get you on our spreadsheet, so that way we can best position you for success in prevailing, and also lessen any time that you may see a financial impact while the state is processing you correctly.
Great. Okay, we did get one more question in the last couple of minutes of the town hall. This question is from a flight attendant who took the VIA, and it says, I took the lump sum but have not filed in North Carolina yet. I'm confused about how I declare my pension benefits.
And just to build off of what David said, that will be something that they will ask of you during your initial claim filing. I cannot stress this phrase enough. My pension is not from my base period employer. My pension is not from my base period employer. That is the exact language from the law. That is the exact language from the UI department. Hopefully using that, as soon as you put your claim in, you would have already set up a username. You'll have access to the portal. Shoot us an email. Let us get you that PDF so you can put it right up in there, and get you the benefit that you're entitled to, the full benefit.
The other part of that is some claimants who've contacted us, you know this too, upload their PBGC pension letter, because on that letter it clearly states flight attendants in the service of U.S. Airways.
Correct.
And if you're filing a claim against American Airlines, that should be a no-brainer that U.S. Airways is a previous carrier, or any previous carrier. Piedmont.
Allegheny.
We didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Because we haven't really received a lot of those. Most of them were from the PBGC, but any previous carrier that you worked for that you receive a pension.
And what David was mentioning on that pension letter, you can actually reach out to PBGC directly, and they will provide that statement of your pension and how much you are to receive on benefit. So you can upload that to your portal in conjunction with a letter that we've been referring to, the PBGC letter, that is an American Airlines creation to clearly state they got no dog in this fight. It is not them. You're getting that pension outside of it.
Do we have the number to, and if not, we can maybe get it?
I believe it's on Retirement's website. Yeah, so if you go to apfa.org and visit the retirement department, they have in there how to contact PBGC, and I think you can also do LAA on that, right?
I can double check.
Cool, please.
We're gonna pull it up.
Oh,
We'll go
okay.
to the website right now.
You want me to share it?
Yes.
Are we going under?
To retirement department, departments,
David, I totally forgot about that.
I know, I totally forgot.
and then retirement.
Let me share my screen. While I'm pulling this up, we got another question.
Okay. All right, Josh is busy getting that up on our screen.
And we've got a button.
Okay, great.
So we're going to,
We're gonna go to at the top departments,
Yep.
right? And then we're going to go to retirement. And then Kelly, let's see here.
Okay, two places. I believe they have the links in the retirement handbook.
Okay.
Um,
And the retirement handbook is right there. It's the second one down.
and then also to the right of that, under links, they have the PBGC link on there.
Okay. Over here to the right. There we go.
And by the way, if you have not had the opportunity to look over that retirement handbook and you took a VOP, it is an excellent resource. Definitely utilize that. Very good resource. Something else I was thinking on that. Oh, Social Security. Do we want to touch on that?
Might as well.
do you all still want me to share this screen?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay.
You can leave it up there. Social Security. If you're of age and you want to draw upon your Social Security, that does not measure against your unemployment either. So, got a lot of pots of money out there if you want to draw on it.
We have one more question that kind of relates to all of this. I am getting the PBGC from my deceased husband's estate. Do I need to claim these types of payments? This is for an STLOA.
Okay, so a survivorship pension, still not from your base period employer. Because of how North Carolina phrases it, I really wish they would ask us, how would you like us to phrase these questions? Because
Next time.
yes, because when they ask, are you drawing from a pension? They're not specific, they're not saying, is it your pension? Is it a survivorship pension? Is it your base period employer pension? So there is a required reporting of that. However, what the state law says is it from your base period employer? If it is, it will be measured against your employment. Therefore, all things outside of that will not. So you will need to disclose it in the same form fashion that we have described throughout this town hall. Just because it's a survivor pension does not change the content or change the conversation about it. You're in the exact same situation had it been your own with PBGC. So definitely, you know what? If it's not a PBGC pension, send us an email at unemployment@apfa.org and we can walk you through what you need to get from that pension company, what wording you need to get to upload to your portal to ensure that it does not impact your unemployment. If your spouse happened to be maybe a fellow employee that was part of the PBGC and your survivor benefits are coming from that, you can utilize the exact same letter and we can email that to you for you to upload into the portal. Am I missing anything on that one?
No, and if you don't have access to APFA to get into the PBGC link or the retirement link, you can call 817-540-0108. I think it's extension 8153. Or you can reset your password directly from the website.
And that extension 8153
8153,
is for membership, right?
correct,
So that way they can get you hooked up and
into the website.
perfect.
Right. There are a lot of great resources there, you guys.
Great, well, thank you very much, Kelly and David, for all your expertise on all of these states, but especially North Carolina. It sounds like you've done a lot of work for the North Carolina flight attendants who have been claiming unemployment there. We want to thank you all for joining us today. And as a reminder, a video of this town hall will be posted on the APFA website. So if there's some information you need to hear again, or if you have a friend who needs this information, they can not only find all the information on the website under the Member Resources tab, but also they'll be able to see this video and listen to all of the answers to the questions as many times as you would like to. So thank you for joining us again today, and be safe.
Bye,
Thank
North
you.
Carolina.
Bye, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Raleigh.